Hi, it's Friday night. I had planned on doing my regular State of Seattle address, weekly address, but I was going over the City Council website and I noticed that a lot of the things that are supposed to be current issues are like from 2014. Which leads me to this. I'm wondering exactly how much the city council members especially, how much they're actually working and how much they're actually just sitting in a big old chair in an office taking occasional phone calls from people. Now, I'm not saying that the city council is being lazy. I'm not saying the mayor of Seattle is being lazy, but I am saying that there's a lot of things going on in Seattle that the city council does not seem to be talking about. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are pretty relevant. At least I think they are, and they are somehow connected. One, you have an influx of people moving into the city. A lot of those people that are moving into the city haven't the slightest idea what they're getting themselves into. Now, I talked about this in another video when I said, when I was talking about people moving to Seattle, not understanding what it's going to be like when they get there. They don't have an apartment lined up, ready to go. They don't have a job lined up. They just know that people are moving to Seattle, and it seems kind of neat. They've never been there before. They look at a few photographs on Google. They see the Space Needle, the Pike Place Market, the Puget Sound, and they think, oh, that's great. Well, you know, Google also has Google Maps, which means that you can put a particular address in, and you can go down to street level, and you can actually look around through satellite imaging. You can look around and see what Seattle actually looks like on the ground. Now, me personally, I love Seattle. I talk about Seattle all the time, especially where I'm at now. People get frustrated with me because they say that I have Seattle on the brain. And, you know, a lot of people that move to Seattle on a whim, they haven't done their due diligence. Y'all are the ones that I'm blaming for not allowing someone like myself the ability to move back to Seattle and live in a place where I call home. Now, I wasn't in Seattle for a very long time, but I lived in Seattle at a time when it was really great to live there. The cost of living was down, the homelessness problem was down, apartments were more affordable, you could really enjoy yourself. Now, you move to Seattle, and then I get a lot of these videos that I see on YouTube about moving to Seattle. Why? Well, when they say why I moved to Seattle, they don't really tell you the real reason they moved. They'll say stuff like, oh, because the jobs are paying more and because the neighborhoods are better. One person in particular, who I'm not going to name, one person in particular said that the reason they moved to Seattle was for this one reason, but if you watch their video, it starts to leak out over time the real reason they moved. And there's a lot of people that move to Seattle because they like getting stoned. They love the idea of being high. They love the idea of just feeling all nice and mellow and not having to worry about whether or not a cop's going to be chasing after them. They can just buy some designer marijuana and they can just smoke it and just hang out and chill with their buds and their lady friends, and you know, and a lot of people, as a matter of fact, when I was contemplating moving back to Seattle about 3 years ago, a guy that used to live in the apartment building I live in now, he had talked about wanting to move to Seattle because he, for one, was gay. No, I have no problems with that, so don't get me wrong. But he's one of those gay guys that just kind of like to be taken care of and have a rich sugar daddy, and he likes to be able to smoke his designer weed. He don't smoke just like regular weed. He's got all these different blueberry kush and and all this other shit that he considers to be real trendy. And he wanted to move to Seattle for that reason. And he said, "Oh, we can get an apartment together and we can split it." And I'm like, "Oh, hell no." No. I will not live with a roommate. I refuse to live with a roommate. I tried that once. I'm an artist and a photographer. I have models that come over to my apartment and I photograph them for my artwork. And I do not want a roommate hitting on my models when they come over. And on top of that, I'm also considering a run for mayor in 2021, so I have to really be careful what I do. And the only reason I'm considering it, being mayor of Seattle, is because there's a lot of things in Seattle that needs to get fixed that the city council is just not fixing. They're trying to do all this other stuff, like the head tax on the business. I don't understand why the city council would even consider doing a head tax on. They should know by now that large businesses, they don't like to give away their money at all. They whine and bitch and cry and complain like a little girl when it comes to giving away their money. It's like they find every loophole in the freaking book, and to get away with not paying no taxes, especially Amazon. You guys are the biggest fucking mistake ever created, because y'all want to use the Postal Service, but you don't want to help out when the Postal Service needs extra help. Y'all want to get special rates for delivering your products, saying, "Oh, well, we're helping out America and we're putting Americans to work," and bullshit. Bullshit you are. Yeah, that sounds good on paper, but y'all don't want to pay shit. Y'all want to make billions of dollars and you want to pay your employees and all of that crap, but when it comes to giving back to the city that allows you the privilege of being in their city, see, instead of Seattle allowing you the privilege of being there, you turn it around on Seattle and say, "Well, you're privileged for us to even want to be in your city. You should be thanking us. You should be bowing down and kissing our rosy ass and you should be sucking our dick because we're giving you the opportunity to have such a great company like Amazon in your city." Seattle was doing just fine with Microsoft being there. Seattle didn't need nothing more than Microsoft. When Microsoft was there back in the early to mid 90s, Microsoft hadn't taken off like it does now, like it had now. In the last, since about the year 2000, they really started to take off, and the computers really started to get more advanced. When I lived in Seattle, they still had text-only internet, which used dot matrix printers. That tells you how long ago it's been. So now they got wireless this and wireless that, and they got computers that'll fit in your cell phone. But I've tried to contact several people that do these YouTube videos that want to say, "Oh yeah, the reason I moved to Seattle is this," or "These are the reasons I hate Seattle." but they never really tell you anything substantial on. It's clickbait. They figure, oh, you're going to find out what's really going on with Seattle and something major like, oh, yeah, the things that I hate about Seattle. Well, for one thing, they don't have coffee shops on every like every half a block. There's not a coffee shop. Or yeah, well, the Space Needle, it's kind of spendy to eat there, so I can't eat there every night. You know, little piddly shit like that. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, well, tell me like some really major things that are like the rent is too freaking high. The price of a hamburger shouldn't be no $20, and well, unless you go to a fancy restaurant. And I've had some $20 hamburgers that were worth every single bit of $20. I had this bison burger with bacon and cheese on a grilled bun, and it came with fries and a soda, and it was $22. And I'll tell you, that was worth every bit of that $22. It was actually probably worth more than that. It was a half-pound bison burger, and I'm telling you, that sucker was nice. It was grilled really nice. It was seasoned really well. I had, before I got so rudely cut off, that burger that I got, that bison burger, was worth every penny. Anyway, the reason I was telling you that story about that hamburger was because some things are worth more. But because we're not on a gold standard anymore, and because they've overinflated prices on things, like a pound of hamburger shouldn't be worth no $5 a pound. And I get it. People want to make money. The beef industry wants to make money. The apartment owner wants to make money, and all of that. But you cannot. This is my personal opinion. I don't think you should charge more for the product. I think you should keep the product at a reasonable price, and you should sell more of the product in order to make a larger profit. And I also believe that the rich have their places they go shop for food and stuff. There was an episode of Frasier on the Frasier Crane Show, and I talk about Frasier quite a lot in some of my videos. But there's a spot in the movie in one of the episodes where Niles is going to the store to buy, and it's like an upscale, exclusive, snobbish kind of store, where a pound of prosciutto was like, I think it was like $20 some a pound or something, and he bought like 2 pounds of it or something. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you that is because those kind of stores, if the rich are willing to pay $1,000 for a bottle of champagne, let them. But you shouldn't expect everybody to be able to afford that just because the rich can. And in Seattle, it's really getting to be like that because they think that they're catering. Because let's face it, Seattle would not exist without the poor. Seattle would not exist without the middle class and the working class, the blue collar workers. Like if the rich lived in Seattle and it was only the rich, people that are making like a couple of $1 million a year, or you got people that are like 200,000 to maybe 300,000 a year employees. Now they want to go to a restaurant, and let's say the restaurant employee, the waiter, you don't think the waiter's making the same money you are, right? Well, I'm just telling you, if you guys keep living the way you're living, you're going to force everybody that does the little menial jobs out of the city, which means that you go to a restaurant, you're going to be sitting there because there'll be nobody to bring your food. There'll be no wait staff because you've made things so expensive that the wait staff can no longer afford to live in the city. they can no longer afford to have a life. So by you catering specifically to the rich, do you think a 200,000 gross income employee of a store or of a computer firm is going to wait tables? No. Okay, so what happens now? There's no more restaurants because there's nobody to work those restaurants. The restaurants are making all that money. I'm not talking about McDonald's or Burger King or Taco Bell or Arby's or anything like that. I'm talking about like the Cigar Valone, and I'm talking about Shea Shrimp, and I'm talking about just Top of the Needle, the Sky Cafe or whatever it's called. I'm talking about those. They've got regular workers that are maybe working like maybe $10 to maybe $15 an hour, and they're relying on tips. But at the rate Seattle is going, you guys are going to jack everything up so high that all those people that you rely on, that you don't understand that you rely on, they're going to up and split because they can't afford to live there anymore. The rent is too freaking high for somebody to want to just be there and just get by. Nobody wants to live in the city and just get by. Why is it fair for the rich to be able to have a life and everybody that caters to the rich have to just get by? Anyway, this was supposed to be the State of Seattle address for this week, but I didn't really have a whole lot to talk about because the City Council's website seems to be outdated, which I'm going to have to contact them and tell them. And it doesn't seem like it's updated enough. So I just did a little rambling and some basic feelings that I had stored up about Seattle and the cost of living, and which I'm working on. I'm shooting ideas to the City Council, and I've told them, I've thrown the gauntlet down. I've told them, if y'all do not get your shit together by 2021, I will run for mayor on a platform that will behoove the city for change. I'm not going to do away with the rich and the middle class. I'm not going to do away with the poor. I'm going to deal specifically with the poor and people that are struggling to try to make ends meet. People that are on Social Security disability, people that are on veterans benefits, and people that are on SSI, and people that are on welfare. And I'm going to be dealing with the homeless, but I'm also going to be dealing with the everyday worker that's working at like the subway, where these great big huge people from Amazon, maybe they go to lunch there, they eat at Subway, and they don't take into account that those people have to work and they have to live also. When you're constantly thinking about yourself, you lose sight of the person that helps keep you going. The people that work at Subway and the Burger King and the McDonald's and all that, those little mom and pop places where you eat at, those are the people that help keep you going. They help sustain you. Yes, you're paying for the product they're serving, but if they weren't there to serve it, you wouldn't be able to eat it, and you'd be at work starving unless you brown bagged it. And I don't know anybody that's making 100 to 200 grand a year that would be willing to brown bag their lunch. I'm just being honest with you. Anyway, this has been the State of Seattle semi-address for this week. The week of Friday, June 22nd, 2018. Enjoy your weekend, Seattle. I will catch you this upcoming Friday. In the meantime, I will be doing different videos from my series called All Things Considered, because I consider all things.